This is like a SNL cold open when you just hear that laughter at the beginning. You know it's going to be good. Hey there. Thanks for watching and or listening to Podcast is Broken, a weekly podcast where we try to make Canadian news and politics more J-picular. I'm Brittlestar.
I'm Steve Boots, and I think we make it delightful.
I'm Lisa, and I'm going to copy last week and say it's zestful.
Zestful's nice, though.
Is it zestful or zesty?
I think there's two things.
I mean, it can be whatever you want it
Zest
to be. I'm just making
adjacent?
up words this week, so.
No, it's fine.
I mean, if we're talking nachos, zesty is ideal.
Yeah, you don't want your nachos to be zestful, do you?
Or zestless.
No, but zestful makes them sound like
Zestastic?
they're going to be zestastic.
Yeah.
Have you said?
Zestastic?
That just sounds like a
right.
German saying sextastic.
Maybe we should start over.
Zestastic?
Zestastic?
Anyway.
We're out of the gates hot.
Oh my God.
Come back on screen. Cut me out of the podcast.
The look on his face was like...
I feel like, when Dad comes back, it's like, what the fuck have you been doing in here?
The way his eyes just bugged out of his head for a split second.
Listen,
He's
that
like
could have been a million times worse. It could have been a
I amped
million
you
times
guys
Could have been
worse.
a tubing. We don't know what's going on.
Exactly. It could have been a tubing again. We could have been right back there.
Oh,
All right. Well, we're still going, so see ya.
See ya.
Oh my God, keep that.
Oh, magnificent stuff. This is what you get if you watch the video version, folks.
I don't like
You never know what you're going to
Owen.
get.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Owen might just randomly appear in certain moments.
That could have gone so terribly, and I'm glad it went as well as it did. Speaking of things gone terribly and not as well as they could have, today there was a little bit of news. I guess it doesn't matter. People realize we're not recording this on Sunday morning at 5 a.m., right?
I think they've
figured
made
that
their
out.
peace with it, yes.
They've figured it out.
Yeah.
But there was just news, of course, that Jagmeet Singh, leader of the NDP, has decided to rip up the supply and confidence agreement with the Liberal Party.
And he gesticulated about it and everything.
He did gesticulate quite a bit. He had a cool messenger bag thing on. That was cool.
And totally wasn't reading from a teleprompter. Definitely not. No, sir.
Exactly.
He was not reading from a screen in front of him.
Hey, my video went out an hour and 40 minutes after his. I thought that was pretty good.
Yes.
The turnaround was remarkable.
Right?
I was impressed.
Kudos to you.
Thank you for that. So this has caused quite a bit of a stir for a variety of reasons, which is interesting, as opposed to the one reason
why.
I think, which my takeaway from the whole thing was, I think this is a stupid move. This is dumb because it seems like all that Jagmeet wants is a chance to be prime minister, and that's it. And he thinks he's a contender, and I don't think he is, realistically. What's your guys' takes?
Oh, how rambly do we want to get? Lisa,
we
do you
can
want to open, or do you want me to go?
Do you want me to open? I'm gonna try to not fall for the hysteria.
Okay.
And this is just my opinion, one lowly voter living in Canada.
I am but a lowly voter.
The fuck are you doing? Here's my thing, because we've seen it, obviously. There's been this pressure coming from the alt-wrong, the Conservative Party in our country, slamming him. They've just been slamming Jagmeet, right? They're like, okay, well, we can't, we've flown all the flags we can about Justin. So now we're going to go on the attack from Jagmeet, called him a bunch of names and what have you, basically calling him out to do this. But then you did it. So it's like you succumbed to the bullying of this alt-wrong. What are you doing? That's just my opinion. I have a problem with that.
This is it, there's that part of sort of you've given them exactly what they wanted, but also what I can't wrap my head around is why now? Mm-hmm. There are 1,000,001 different reasons to end the supply and confidence deal. 1,000,001. There's lots of different reasons that make perfect sense. He could have pulled the trigger over the rails union thing. He could have pulled the trigger over grocery prices. He could have pulled the trigger over a budget. Could have done it over all manner of things. Why now specifically? And that's what I can't wrap my head around. What leverage is he using here?
Well, here, I'll tell you. I'll tell you why now.
Okay.
The reason why now is I feel that Jagmeet, cool dude, looks great, talks great,
smells
better
neutral,
than me talk.
apparently.
Smells like a neutral
neutral smell. That's what you want to achieve is that
an
neutral
odorless
smell.
man, an entirely
Exactly.
odorless man.
But I'll tell you, it was evident to me that he succumbed to bullying from Polyev because Polyev has been trying to trump him with this name called Sellout Singh.
Yeah.
And said he's just propping him up, blah, blah, blah. They got to get out of this, blah, blah, blah. The first sign of trouble I thought was when the NDP or whoever it was, someone from the NDP said, well, listen, scrapping the deal is always on the table. And I was like, oh, they're falling for this.
Yeah, well, Singh said that earlier this week, and then I think it was on Tuesday, Matt Green spoke to the press and said that at the upcoming caucus retreat, they were going to talk about the supply and confidence deal.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if there's some element of Singh trying to consolidate power a little bit and trying to get out ahead of a potential sort of I don't think there would be a caucus revolt over it necessarily, but a major caucus challenge at least.
We see we see this from the Conservative Party, right, with their like axe the tax and bring it home and all this other kind of garbage. And their latest campaign was this, sellout Singh. And you're right, Stuart. Like, it's like in my mind, because, Pierre was tweeting it, all of his weirdo MPs were tweeting it. You fell for it. Like,
yeah,
this would have been the time to stand up. Like, if you wanted to back, the agreement that you had with the Liberals, back it. Like, say, hey, sellout, yeah, we got you pharmacare. Sellout, yeah, we got you dental. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could have, could have twisted it in a positive way that shows actual collaboration between parties, as opposed to this polarization of parties. So I just don't get it.
It undermines them so much. Like the fact that Poilievre put out that letter basically demanding that he withdraw from the supply and confidence deal.
Yeah.
And not more than a few days later, Singh does exactly that. It really looks like Poilievre is calling the shots. It's hard for it to read any other way. Like, I don't think the actual move of withdrawing from the supply and confidence deal and taking things vote by vote is bad. I think it had run its course. I think the things that the NDP were going to get out of it have been accomplished, and they would benefit more from bringing more pressure. But by doing it exactly now, right after being asked by Poilievre to, it's the worst moment imaginable.
Okay, but let's look at it this way. So, that it had run its course, right? We got the pharmacare, we got the dental care, we got all that kind of stuff. But if I am running a party and I go into an agreement with another party to say, hey, we're going to support each other, these are the things that I would like to see happen, and they happen, and then you peace out, are you saying you don't have anything else to bring to the table?
Well, yeah, I hadn't thought of that angle. I think you're right.
Like, I would have kept this, and not that I ever planned to be, but I would have kept this agreement until its end date, even if you didn't have anything to bring forward, A, to show that collaborative approach, B, to say fuck you to the Conservatives. We will support each other. But it would still give you like another yearish to come up with anything else that you would have liked to have seen moved forward, which would then bring you into an election.
Well, and I think this is kind of what I was pointing at earlier with the not applying any levers. Like, you could have used the threat of withdrawing from this to try to push for some other concession or anything really. But instead they just said, yeah, we're done. Like, what was the gain?
I think to make matters worse, in testament to Poilievre's style or lack thereof. He posted after Jagmeet had posted the video saying the deal is done. We're not doing this anymore. We're ripping it up. Saying 2 years ago, sellout Singh sold out workers and signed on to cost the coalition with Justin Trudeau that hiked taxes, blah, 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 blah. He goes on to call him sellout Singh. That's the only name he refers to him by 4 times in this tweet.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a point of like, I hate the term emasculating in a sense, but it's exactly what it is for Jagmeet. He is like it's the Simpsons gif of the kids going, stop it, he's already dead. It's that idea. And then to make it worse, Jagmeet responds, not tagging Pierre, which is fine because Pierre didn't tag Sellout Singh because at Sellout Singh's maybe still available. I'm not sure.
I think he'll probably still see it.
Yeah. He said, I see PP has tweeted. He sounds worried. He should be. A great man once provided the antidote to the anger, hate, division he spreads. It's love, hope, and optimism. And I think to myself, oh, dear God, are you completely unaware of what's happening politically in Canada currently?
Also, calling him PP.
It's the same stupid thing.
Right?
Yeah, goddamn leader of the party, man. But also, it's the fact that the primary, I feel so bad saying this, but it's true. The fact that the primary brand of the NDP leadership these days is the fond memory of Jack Layton.
I know.
Is killing me. Like, guys, all you have is looking backwards. At a certain point, can we stop saying what a great guy he was and start trying to be great guys at present? That'd be cool. The
thing that drives me insane is that it's evident to me, and it's probably evident to most people. I won't get insulting with this. It's probably evident to most people, period.
Do it.
That there is no chance in hell of the NDP becoming government of Canada for the foreseeable. Maybe, and someday, maybe. I would love to see it. I have no problems with the majority of what the NDP does, and their policies are all wonderful. However, they're not going to take Alberta federally. They're going to have a really hard time with Ontario rurally, and it's just not going to happen. So all we're doing now is we've just once again, and I know that some of the other folks online said this isn't a concern. All we're doing is splitting the vote again. That's all we're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Permission to get a little into the weeds?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So a lot of this comes
Hang on. I need off.
Okay. A lot of this comes from sort of what happened to the NDP following the death of Jack Layton. The NDP sort of had this internal decision to make because there was really no plan for what was going to happen after Jack. They were kind of left in the wind. And so what happened was there were sort of these more progressive leftist elements in the party who, folks kind of like me, the social democrat types who are like, public services and, public utilities and crown corporations and all these things. And like the more traditional socialists. And then you had the people who viewed the party as more sort of a neoliberal approach to making incremental progress. And so what they wanted to do was sort of make deals within the existing legislative system to bring progressive ideas forward bit by bit by being a sort of a permanent third party and just wheeling and dealing political power. And that side of the party won. And so they abandoned a lot of the traditional socialist folks who were their original base, the people who gave the party sort of its ideological juice. And so you wound up with this party that doesn't believe in a heck of a lot of anything and just says, we're for the workers. And then you say, how? And they say, we're for the workers. And you say, okay, but what are you going to do for the workers? And you say, we're going to show up on a picket line and tell them we're for the workers. Cool. Then what? Right? And so they wound up in this sort of swirling void of being framing themselves as like kinder, gentler liberals. And it hasn't worked. And it's the reason why they've been trapped at 15% for what? The better part of a decade? Like at a certain point, you've got to believe in something, folks.
Well, I think, but that's, it's so hard for me because I do have a lot of the same values, and it's not that I don't, but I look at the political stratosphere that we're in right now, and it's terrifying. And so I think the NDP has had the luxury almost of not having to come up with new things because they've sort of been riding the coattails of.
All right. Are you ready for my like kooky conspiracy prediction?
Say it so I can't. Yeah.
No, this is what I think will happen, but I'm bad at predicting, so grain of salt.
Okay.
But I genuinely think that sort of the collapse of the alt-right is, if not already in progress, is coming. Like the Trump movement, you can see the wheels coming off fast.
Yes.
And they're so organized around centralized leaders that is coming apart very quickly. And so I genuinely think over the next 10, 15, 20 years, assuming we don't all die in any number of ongoing catastrophes, I think the battle for the political future is going to be between sort of centrist liberals and the progressive left. And so the NDP really need to do some soul searching and figure out where they're going to position themselves in that, because there is a huge, massive portion of society who want progressive policies. They poll crazy well, and yet nobody's doing them because there's just like everybody just thinks, oh, we need to run to the center to chase votes. And it's like, votes will find you if you have good ideas.
But the 10, 15 years from now is not now. And we tend to be a little bit behind the US, right? So like our radical right came in a little bit after. And so, I know, because you can sense it. The worry for people like on social media or whatever is like, well, what the fuck do we do now, right? Pierre's going to win the election where it's hopeless. It's not hopeless, right? No. Like, I mean, all this is just saying, hey, we had an agreement, now we don't have an agreement. This doesn't pull an election right now. Like, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't happen with Jagmeet's announcement today.
Wait, you mean we can't crown God Emperor Poilievre?
Never.
He was going to turn into a sandworm and everything.
Right? Well, I think that's what he was thinking. And I think that's from what I've seen. Like, I mean, that's the MPs now, that is their next thing. Is let's call a non-confidence. Let's do like trying to
there's going to be a non-confidence vote every like 3 days.
Right?
Absolutely.
Of course.
It's going to be agonizing because the NDP want to distance themselves from the liberal brand. They don't want to bring down the government.
No.
They have no interest in calling an election and come in third place. Why would they do that?
I think they'd be lucky if they came in third place. Of course, someone pointed out to me they'd be fourth place after the block.
After the block.
Yeah. And I really think the play here is honestly, I feel a little guilty saying these things because I genuinely want to think the best of the NDP. I want to think the best of them so bad, but it feels so cynical that this is happening right before a by-election where it feels like they can steal a seat from the Liberals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so short-sighted.
Yeah. It really feels like they're just trying to steal a by-election and cashing in the supply and confidence deal to try to do it.
I wonder just like what the conversations were behind closed doors, right? Like,
you gonna let them talk to you like that? You gonna let them talk to you like that? Are you? You gonna just take that? You should get out there. You should like show him you're a man.
He's calling you sellout Singh, bro.
Do some bro.
He's calling you sellout Singh.
Go show him your car.
You gonna take that, bro?
You gonna do that?
So I mean, like, look at, and I don't want to make fun of it because whatever, but I mean, like,
feel free to make fun of it. It's kind of our thing.
Okay, but like in 2 weeks of being called a name and it pushes you to make a decision that seems a little bit
That's the
odd.
thing of all the
Imagine,
things that
hold on,
tips name calling.
Shut up, Steve.
Imagine the last 4 or 5 whatever years of Trudeau with the flags and the nooses and the, you know what I mean? So like if being called sellout Singh is going to make you question decisions that you have made,
Well, it's very
not
similar.
encouraging.
No, it's not encouraging, but it's very similar to you had suggested, Steve, I think, which is generally a good idea for the Liberals to drop the carbon tax.
Yes.
You can't do that and make it look like Polyev won by telling you to drop the carbon tax.
Right.
That's it.
You have to find a way to do it that makes you save face, even if most people are like winky, winky, nudge, nudge, going, yeah, we can see what's going on. But on the face of it, you can come away still looking kind of your own person and not,
Yes.
You come up with a way to pivot to like deflect in some way. You don't just like get a letter from Polyev that says, end the agreement, and you're like, oh, okie dokie.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What message does that send? Like, is that him signaling he's willing to collaborate with Polyev? Because immediately after, he gave a 3-minute video that was like, Polyev bad.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
There's no way. There's no way that,
and that's it.
Those two parties could even be in the same room together.
So
right?
why
Based
do
on
you
their views on so many
respond to his request then?
I don't
Kills
know.
Me.
The thing that was most disheartening about the video that Jagmeet Singh put out today was that it wasn't so much the deal itself breaking down, because I understand principally they have to distance themselves somehow from liberals. But as we said, there's a million better ways they could have done that, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
The most disheartening thing about it was when he said, I can't remember the exact words now. I got to figure out the exact words, but essentially saying, when I'm prime minister,
I'm running for prime minister.
I'm running for prime minister. ... Exactly. It's like, well, first of all, we don't run for prime minister here in Canada. We talked about this when Polyev did this whole thing. Polyev for PM. It's like, it's not how it works.
It's not how it works. No.
And
we were annoyed then. We're annoyed now. Damn it.
Yeah.
Extra annoyed now.
Extra annoyed because he figured Jagmeet's a smarter dude. He's not going to do that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it was just like, oh, are we all pitching to the stupid people now? Is that what we're doing? Are we all like trying to go to the lowest common denominator? Is that what's happening? It was so disheartening. It was so
the race to the bottom, man. That's where you win, apparently.
Right?
Well,
I don't know. And the video message really struck me because the focus of it was so much on what he was against rather than like being for much of anything. And it's
hopeful and promising.
Yeah,
none of that.
You can't like embrace this like Jack Layton, Tommy Douglas sort of identity of leadership and then be like, everybody be scared of the big conservative boogeyman.
Yeah.
Shaking chains in the video.
This is such a hard topic, and it's almost like, I'll be honest, it's very uncomfortable for me because like there's certain political alliances that I, in my mind, believe to have, right? And then when the reality of something,
pretend.
No. But like when something like this happens, I'm like,
and one of them's a dog, and he can talk.
Shut up, Stuart.
Sorry.
I know, I forgot what I was going to say. It was good.
No, but you have certain allegiances, and it's difficult for you.
It's a difficult thing because I don't, in my mind, I'm trying to this obviously just happened, so I'm trying to figure it out. It doesn't change anything, but it does change some things. It changes the way that I view the direction of the NDP, which is difficult for me to come to terms with. But at the same time, like, it's those little things. It's like, okay, obviously this to me in my mind with the video is like the start of the next 12 months of campaigning, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, it's that, when I'm running to be prime minister, dude, like, we know that, right? Like, come on. We should be better. And if that is the whole, how we joked about, parody what they do, but do it better.
Yeah.
This is not doing it better, right? This is not doing it better. So, yeah, it's a hard day. It's a hard day for me. I have
long felt that to know the NDP is to know disappointment. Like, you want them to do so well.
So what NDP stands for? No disappointment? Well, that's no disappointment. I spelled it wrong.
You want them to do well. You want them, like, you're like, okay, guys, you've got leverage on the Liberals. Now we're going to use it to accomplish oh crap, you're just going to drop it like nothing. Hey, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Like it's these good moves followed by these like very head scratching missteps that you're like, why on earth would you do that? And it's endlessly frustrating as somebody who, like, ideologically they're probably closest to me, but I don't consider myself like an NDP guy because they make me bang my head against the wall so regularly.
The other thing, and I mean, this is, I think, something that we learned in Alberta, because we used to provincially have the three main parties, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the Liberals, I don't know where they went. Because nobody in the West is ever going to vote Liberal. And so we ended
They did what Western Liberals do. They just evaporated.
Yeah.
And so we have NDP, and then we have whatever the fuck the flavor of Conservatives are for the moment. But one of the things that I think had to be adapted for Alberta is that you cannot exclude any one thing. And so for the federal NDP to talk about the CEOs, talk about, big business, which isn't new, right? Like, people have been talking about that. You haven't come up with anything fantastic. But you have to, as a party, certainly a federal party, figure out how you're actually going to work with these. Not just slam them, but work alongside of them, right? Because let's be real, it contributes to the economy. We have people who... And I think provincially, the NDP had done that. We talked about the pipeline. We talked about all those kinds of things, right? Fast forgotten in Alberta. But like you said about the video, it's a lot of like what we're against, but not what we're for. If it we will keep big business, big industry CEOs, we will keep them or take them to task, like whatever it is, just words. But at least that's something that you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
So...
And I think energy policy that you're pointing at is such a good example of the NDP. Like, what do they believe about energy policy? Because like Alberta NDP and Saskatchewan NDP are like trying to argue with Sask Party about who loves oil and gas more. Right. And then the federal NDP is like, oil and gas bad. And it's like, okay, so what actually do you guys think?
It's, I think for me, the ideal would be to have the Liberals and the NDP essentially in power together. That would be an ideal for me. Personally, this deal was the closest they've come to that. Now, they still have the power as such to hold the Liberals to account and to take them to task when need be by sort of threatening, well, we might call it confident. We might just vote with the Conservatives. Even though it's largely empty threats. They still have that power a little bit. But the problem is now without the agreement, I think, is that they've opened themselves up. They're now no longer a united support for the government. They can now be picked off. And I don't know what the number is that they would require, but they can be picked off for this no confidence vote. And that's a problem. That's a big problem. With the agreement, you're not going to get stray MPs because they're going to be, well, no, I'm with the parties doing this. Yeah. Now it's up for grabs. If it's good for, so-and-so, MP so-and-so in some riding that's going to benefit from a deal with the Conservatives, well, maybe.
Yeah. The thing is, if anybody were to do that, like if the party were to splinter at the federal level like that, that's kind of the end of it. I think that's kind of ball game for the federal NDP, at least in its current
Absolutely
form.
It is. Yeah. But I think they're that close. I think this is the kind of thing that would maybe shake them up, though. This is the kind of thing that would shake the foundation, rather.
I mean, realistically, there's not the volume of sitting NDP MPs, right? That is going to potentially, hopefully, sway.
There's that. There's also, though, the NDP has... an issue similar to all parties, but I think it drags the NDP a little harder than maybe the other ones, is there's sort of a party institution that is very slow moving, very reluctant to change, and very set in its ways. And so I think the idea of any sort of a radical shift coming from within the NDP is getting harder and harder to envision because of that party institution. So I think if you were to see anything, it would be some elements of the party going rogue and either sitting independent or forming an additional party. But that's So unlikely.
Yeah.
So is our only hope currently the fact that the people of Quebec generally hate Polyev?
We got to rely on that. Yeah, we got to rely on that.
Once again, we need the Quebecois to bail us out.
Yeah.
So here's my thing.
Somebody at home is just like screaming at their stereo, right?
You, Steve. Alberta transfer payment, Steve.
Here's the thing that is a concern for me as well, is that I look around and on one of our future episodes, we're going to have David Musgrave on. God help us all. No, I'm just kidding. He's a good guy. But David has got some pretty strong left-wing views. And in light, after the announcement today, he said the NDP is right to end the deal with Liberals. They get nothing from it anymore, and the liabilities are adding up as they get saddled with Liberal baggage without credit for successes. Now they must have the courage to send us to the polls if the Liberals screw around. My problem with that is that I feel this is going to absolutely, potentially, if there was an election anytime in the next 6 months, I think it's going to have very bad detrimental effect on the NDP. And that stuff that we love about the NDP, the pharmacare, the dental, the daycare stuff, all that kind of stuff, is going to be gone. I was livid thinking about that today when I saw the message. I saw his video. I thought Jagmeet's video. I was like, he doesn't care about all those programs. He's just like threatening. He's just like dangling them. So I hated it.
I disagree a little bit because I remember when at the end of Barack Obama's term, when somebody was asking him, like, Donald Trump planned to get rid of Obamacare almost immediately.
Yeah.
And Obama basically said, like, he might, but he might not get rid of it fully. He might not get rid of certain parts of it. He might not get rid of it at all. And he's like, I'm not going to let the fact that somebody might destroy it stop me from building it. But also, if it's a good program, if it's popular, people like it, it would be political suicide to go after it. And that's what Donald Trump found. He couldn't build the political support to go after Obamacare, and so it never really came together. I think you'll likely find once those programs get off the ground that they'll be popular. And I think that's why remember that combien thing from Polyev? That was because he was dodging a question about whether or not he'd cancel pharmacare. Because he knows that the answer, yes, I would cancel pharmacare, is an incredibly unpopular answer. Mm-hmm. And so he's going to avoid taking a position on that as best he can. And so I think Singh recognizes that those are pretty firmly planted at this point, and to undo that work would be politically disastrous for the Conservatives. I mean, they might. You never know what they're willing to sacrifice to be jerks, right? So
there's a little bit of blood coming out of Lisa's mouth right now. A little bit.
The difference with like Obamacare and Trump is that Obama wasn't running again, right? Obama had served his 2 terms. He was out.
Yeah, that's
the hatred for Justin, right? From
the
people
hate Justin Trudeau?
Well, I'm not sure.
I've heard Tale of Flags
waving in the wind, right? But there's so much like the propaganda that put out by the Conservatives rests on the hatred for Justin. Mm-hmm. And so my worry is that they would get rid of anything that he touched, right? Regardless of the fact that the NDP brought it up and not getting credit for it. It's still under Justin, right? Sorry, I'm just
done.
Right? I'm just flipping tables at this point.
Yeah, cool.
Just burn it all down.
Burn it all to the ground.
Because I'm tired of being disappointed all the fucking time, right? So,
to know the NDP.
Right? No, exactly. So that's my worry. And I mean, they'll twist it and they'll, do whatever they need to do and say, no, we will have a better. But realistically, even if the election is in 2025, it will only be a year of the pharmacare and the dental care.
Yeah.
And there's a way for them to manipulate or twist or, you know what I mean? So anything could happen. I wouldn't put anything past the risk of having Poilievre in that seat.
Well, I think to that point, I think we saw the video of the Algoma red shirt guy talking to the prime minister,
Blue Collar Bob.
Yes, that's the one, and complaining about how it was $50 a visit to the dentist. First of all, I mean, there's so many issues.
Concept of copay relief for mom.
It's like $50. I would love to only pay $50 to the dentist. That'd be amazing,
right? You should unionize, Stuart.
I know how much money we make, so no. But I'll shut down and start another company right away.
Fire us all.
Exactly. Now joining me, B. Salee and B. Suits.
He's looking into offshoring the podcast.
Exactly. I've just used the recordings to AI train, basically, so I don't really need you guys anymore. It's fine.
Love it.
All of my snark is going to be delivered by AI in the future.
Exactly.
It's going to be far blander.
The hardest part was getting it to talk over people. Just kidding. We love you. But no, it's I see those types of guys complaining about stuff. I see like the MPs saying, that talking to people about how horrible the daycare plan is. I see people even commenting about how the school food program is dumb. And I think they've been conditioned to think that they're terrible ideas. So even if they're to their benefit, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Conservatives are going to come in and go, well, this is actually good for you. So we're going to keep it going.
Yeah.
And that's my concern, is that all that stuff is being dangled like a carrot. What's the opposite of dangle? He's not dangling a carrot. Jagmeet's not dangling a carrot in front of Trudeau. He's doing something else.
The stick?
Pulling the rug under? I
don't know. There's probably a great cliche.
There's an analogy somewhere.
If you're listening and are watching and know this cliche that I'm referring to, or could think of a new one, please add it in the comments.
Is it?
Beating him with a hammer?
Exactly. Beating him with a hammer. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Although I was looking forward to people making up new cliches. I wasn't sure that was a thing you could do.
Well, it still might happen. I think once you've unleashed that creativity in people, they can't stop it. That train's left the station. People are doing it already. See, that's another cliche. But that's my concern, is that, and I was so angry, is the fact that all these great programs, which are, I think the NDP could have really made a meal of saying, we did this, and we did this. And it still doesn't mean they're ever going to get in power. But they're going to get the credit for what they're doing, and people are going to say, well, they do play a part in making things better. They should be involved somehow. And then I get into the whole thing about, oh, dear God, why do we have 3 parties?
I know.
Oh, that's a big one.
That's a sensitive one for a lot of people. Yes.
The thing is, like, I get the frustration at that, but like the idea behind, the parliamentary democracy system with a bunch of different parties was it relies on actually working together, right?
Yeah.
Being able to actually recognize the collective best interest of Canadians, rather than just ideologically saying, no, we're against if it's government, it's bad. Mm-hmm. Or we won't work with them because Trudeau, right? Like, how do you get anything done in that sort of a context? And so if you were to go down to a 2-party system, I think you would find a lot of folks would just disengage entirely, because like there are so many people who are not ideologically represented by the Conservatives or the Liberals, like, but in the States, there's lots of people in that situation too.
Mm-hmm.
But they have an even bigger problem with political disengagement than we do.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's exactly a model to be looking to. Like, if you look to the places that have really high voter turnout and really high inter-party collaboration, it's places with, voter reform that's taken things beyond first past the post, where the only way that a party can form government is to be able to work with 2 or 3 other parties and make deals and cooperate, right? The answer isn't less parties. The answer is more.
Should we even have parties?
I mean, they're fun.
If there's good dip.
I make a good bean dip.
We got some dips in Parliament.
I don't need to hear about either of your dips. Should we have parties?
You need parties. You need parties because you need infrastructure for research and collaboration, and you need, infrastructure.
But surely those are just ministries, though, right? They could be departments, right?
No, because what happens once you're not government?
Well, they can. The ministries themselves can be funded separately, and then their individual MPs are then put in charge of those responsible for those ministries or departments.
Yeah, that's what's currently happening.
Yeah, but that doesn't require a party, though.
It does, in the sense that, so it, like, think about it in terms of getting into that position, right? Like, how are you going to be able to run, 300 and some odd individual election campaigns and then get people who are ideologically aligned enough to be able to cooperate on all that different stuff? The amount of just having to navigate nonsense would be incredibly difficult. You need people to be able to coalesce around certain individuals. Sort of like how you send, like, it's representative democracy at the level of a party as well as representative democracy to the people going to the seats. And so if you don't have that, like, how do you govern a population this big? I don't think it's imaginable. The only way you could do it is like the way the territorial governments do it, through consensus government. But could it work on the scale of the entire country? I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, wouldn't it be nice if people ran for whatever parties, not or no parties, because they wanted
you just be running for an MP, be running for a member of parliament.
But like, wouldn't it be nice if people just did that because they actually cared to make things better and work on a consensus model, right? Where you have a bunch of different people with a bunch of different views having to come to consensus, which would really be a representation of Canadians, and not just run for power, right? Like that's the whole thing. That's the ideological side of me, is like, can't we all just, get along and do what's best for everybody? But we're in a situation now where it's like, no, we got to cut the bad people off at the knees, because the things that could happen in the future are dangerous for a lot of people, right? And so, and I mean, this I'm still stuck on this whole like sellout Singh thing. Because I can't get it. Because honest to God, if that's what made you do that, like it. By doing this, anytime anything happens, and if the NDP lean towards the Liberals, you don't think that the CPC are going to be like, you don't win when you bow down to a bully. No, you never win, because they move the goalposts. That's what they do.
And a week earlier, a week later, sure, both of those would have worked significantly better. Right now was not the moment.
No, it was bad. So what do we think this is going to mean for Jagmeet? Some people are calling for him to resign. I don't think it's worth resigning over.
And some people are loving it. Some people are so happy because what is it? Time for people, whatever the catchphrase is. I missed it at the end of
some people are fired up about it.
What is it? I'll tell you what it exactly is.
What is it?
Oh, heavens.
It's the people's time.
The people's time. The people.
Yeah.
So I think the political calculus of it's a little strange when it comes to Singh's fortunes, because what I think is likely to happen is nothing is going to change until the election. I think this bought him until the election. He had to make some sort of a move because the rumblings were getting louder and louder. You are stuck at 15, 16, 17% in every single poll. At a certain, like, people are starting to really ask questions. He had to do something. And so I think this is going to be enough to make party, supporters feel like he's taken at least some sort of action. He won't win the election. I think we're relatively confident. And unless the NDP adds seats, which they almost assuredly won't, he's done for. Like, this is going to be it for him.
I think so too. And I think because it's like, to me, it's watching the Green Party at the federal level. Yeah. And I like Elizabeth May. She's touched my face for an inordinate amount of time before, gently and lovingly, which was nice in a friendly way. But it was evident to me the Green Party was like, you guys can't get your act together to govern as a federal party. It's just not happening. And to me, this is the same thing with the NDP. It makes me think about the NDP the same way. It's like, you apparently can't get your act together. This is not good. This is not good. And as much as I hate that cracking the party whip thing, if we're in a party system, there should be a unified front. And that's the best way forward, I think, in this situation, because it is ideologically based at the moment, or at least it's based on winning, and then ideology second. And I think it's important. And I think that this announcement has just been like, oh, you guys don't know what you're doing. Okay.
I mean, I do think, though, it is worth throwing the NDP a little credit here for getting dental care and pharmacare across the line
1,000%
with this agreement.
Yeah.
The agreement did serve its purpose. It did serve value. It got, pared down versions of what Singh was asking for, but got them across the line. But it's just like the agreement had political value. The end of the agreement had political value.
Yeah.
And he wasted that.
Yeah. Because this is him, it seems like he's saying, we're out of the woods, kids. We did what you needed to do. It served its purpose. We're out of the woods. It's like, we're nowhere near out of the woods right now.
Are you kidding? The woods
Yeah,
is on
the
fire.
timing makes no sense.
Yeah. I think
What an uplifting episode.
we didn't argue as much as I thought we were going to, which was good.
Because we all agree it was a bad idea.
We all agree it was a stupid thing to do. A stupid thing done stupidly.
Yeah.
But still, anyway, I'm just glad that we turned down the invitation to the podcast. For those of you watching and or listening, thank you very much. We do appreciate it. You can find us at podcastisbroken.ca, where you can enter your email address and you'll get an email notification every time there's a new episode. You can also find us on your favorite podcasting platforms. We were just remarking tonight that we were number 9 in Canada is our highest chart position in Apple Podcasts.
Hey-o.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. For those of you
we should
who
come up with our own specialty vodka brand immediately.
I don't know what any of that means, but good.
Oh, I should send you some of my vodka then. You don't know I have vodka?
No.
Oh, sexandgold.ca.
Okay, well, keep all your money that you're giving me and just send
just
me
type
vodka.
the URL carefully. That's all.
Anyway,
for those of you who are paid subscribers, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. It helps us keep doing the show, and it helps pay for producer Owen and video producer Lisa C. Different Lisa.
Not me.
Lisa
Yeah,
B is
not me.
useless at editing. No, she's actually really good. And if you're a paid subscriber, you also get the improvised theme song, which happens any second now. But for the rest of you, thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye,
Take care of
folks.
yourselves, folks.
The audio version of Podcast is Broken was produced, engineered, and edited by Owen Reynolds. The video version of the podcast was edited by Lisa Cumming. You can find past episodes and more at podcastisbroken.ca or your favorite podcast platform.